Hi guys, my name is Trinity, and if you are here, you must be here to talk about books because that's why I am here. Today, I am going to be buckling down for another long day of recording. It is spring break. Sorry about the plane. I live by an airport. The video that I have for you are some books that I shouldn't like, but I really do. If you don't know my taste, I'm a very plot-driven reader. And usually that means I just don't like character-driven books. They're not my thing. I really just don't enjoy them. Many of them read very slow, and that causes me to lose interest. Or, they're about more mundane things than what I actually enjoy reading because I like action. I like plot. I want to see where the story goes. Why are we here? Why should I care about these characters? Are they going to do something that makes me feel like they are just legitimately awesome and I should be reading about them? Or is it just going to be, here's this character study and nothing else? I do have two of them that just kind of fall outside of my genre preferences. But I'm adding them to this list because they are so far outside of what I normally read that I feel like they fit in a video like this of I shouldn't like these books, but I do. But the first of those that I want to talk about is probably not going to surprise a lot of you because of the fact that I am a huge Star Wars fan and I love Reylo, so I did pick up this book knowing that it had its initial start as a Reylo fan fiction, and so it makes sense that I would like it in that regard, but it's a contemporary romance centering about a woman who works too hard and is involved in STEM, and because she works too hard, she gets a lot of flack for the fact that she doesn't have a romantic life. Her friends pick on her for never dating and just giving everything to her work. But to alleviate some of the discussion about her romantic life, she finds a guy in a hallway and kisses him in front of her friend so that she'll shut up. And she's like, I'm dating this guy. Turns out they're not dating, but the guy does decide he will get into a fake dating relationship with her because he's tired of the same type of rumors. And that would be The Love Hypothesis by Ali Hazelwood. This is a really cute romance. Now, because of the fake dating, there is a little bit of a miscommunication trope in this book, but I do think that it plays out well. Because the characters are a little unsure of each other, it doesn't last very long, but you can kind of see where this miscommunication trope has a ground to stand on, whereas some of it's just like, will you shut up and talk to the other person? But this one I think is absolutely adorable. The romance plays out well. The characters are very well written. The atmosphere is really great. And I am not STEM myself. Like, I don't have a science background or anything like that, but I really did like those elements in this book. And it's actually intrigued me to pick up more by Ali Hazelwood. I have not yet done so, but I've looked into her backlist and I've really been interested in a couple more of her books because of this one. Next, when you think about plot, this is the last person that anybody thinks of, and that is Joe Abercrombie. So I read this book a long time ago. There's a little bit of a funny story of me finishing the book, and then I threw it across the room, it fell behind the couch, and I left it there. As you can see, it has been through some stuff because I left it behind the couch. I really loved the atmosphere, the dark humor, the dark characters, the fact that nobody in this story is actually a likable person, but you still like them anyway. And we all know that Glocta is who I am referring to in this specific book, but I really enjoyed the atmosphere, the writing, the dark humor, the characters in here, but I did get insanely pissed off when this book went nowhere. And I still gave it 4 stars even after the ending, where I was just like, all of that for nothing? There's no payoff. I thoroughly enjoy Joe Abercrombie's writing. I enjoy his character work. Like I said, I enjoy the dark humor. That's where a lot of people want to not deem this grimdark, because there is a levity to the way that Joe Abercrombie writes. And I like it. I really enjoy it. But it does take you out of that grim darkiness that a lot of people look for when they go to pick up a Joe Abercrombie book in the first place. Yes, I shouldn't like it. I love it. Again, 4 stars, even though it had 0 plot. I'm excited to continue. This is a series that I will continue this year. It's going to be towards the end of the year because I have it as a buddy read with the Oasis Discord, but very, very excited to get into this, reread this, and finish out the trilogy. In that same exact vein, we have the other person who is known for their just outstanding character work. And I picked up this book for a vlog of reading like my favorite author. I'll leave a link to that video down below. And my friend Andrew just absolutely loves this author and has really tried to get me to read this. So with his push and with the push for that video, I was like, okay, I'll go ahead and read it. And that would be Ship of Magic by Robin Hobb. If you guys follow me on Goodreads or Twitter, you will know that I am currently reading Mad Ship. So yes, I loved this. Now, here's my thing. I've actually talked to Andrew about this recently and a couple of people on my Discord recently. There are certain things that can trump plot for me. Not often, and you have to go above and beyond in order to trump plot for me. But lore. I am a sucker for lore. I love mythology, so it stands to reason that lore would draw me into a book just as much as plot would. And I think Robin Hobb does lore so well, interweaves it into the story so well, that it just keeps me reading. And I'm a sucker for lore anyway. So like I said, I love mythology. I own all of the lore books for Dragon Age. I own the lore books for Skyrim. I've read them. I enjoy them. And so when I picked up Ship of Magic, I knew I was getting into a very character-driven book and a very character-driven series. But this one, the lore, the writing, the characters, it's all so well done that I'm not focused on the fact that there's not a whole lot of plot here. There is some. I will say, you know, I give a lot of flack to books for not having any plot. I can see the threads of a plot in this series. However, it's very, very loose and rides on the live ships themselves. So while I can say that there's no plot, there's a little bit. There's a thread of a plot in this book or series, in the series. Next, we have an epic character-driven fantasy. And I've said before, writing can trump plot for me. There's a lot of things that can trump plot for me, but it has to be done exceptionally well. Now, dark atmosphere. I am a huge, huge fan of Gothic literature. Yes, literature. Gothic horror, Gothic literature. They're slow build novels, which is really outside of the realm of what I like in fantasy. But when you can bring that into a fantasy, that slow build kind of horror element, that Gothic element to your writing, oh, I get sucked in. There is a book I wanted to add to this list that fits this same thing that I'm about to talk about for this book, but I just read it. So I want to be able to do my wrap up for it. But this one just sucked me in. The characters are so well done. So well done. The setting is fabulous. I absolutely love the series, and I will say the second book of this series actually gave me the biggest book hangover of my life. To get past it, I had to go reread Bloodsong, which is my favorite book. So I couldn't hardly get past the second book. Like I was like, okay, we're done reading forever because what's going to top that? Bloodsong would top it. So I had to read that to get past it. But anyway, The Forgetting Moon by Brian Lee Durfee. I shouldn't like this. It's epic fantasy. It is a thick, thick boy. And usually that means there's a lot in it that I'm not going to like. There's going to be a lot of filler. What I like about Brian Lee Durfee is there's not a lot of filler. It all goes back to the lore that we are uncovering. It goes back to the rich character development, the rich atmosphere that this book has. And it's dark. It's very dark. So I wouldn't put it at the grim dark scale, but I would say this is dark fantasy at its finest. And there's a lot of things in here that I would look up trigger warnings for, simply because even though they're not delved into deeply, they're in here. Well, it's dark. So that just tells you that there's going to be things in here that may trigger some people. But I really love this book. Or this series so much. I am so eager to be picking up the third book this year. But in this one, we do have a bit of questing. We do have a bit of chosen one type things going on. We have a prophecy. So all of the things that you expect from an epic fantasy are in here, but they're done so well that you don't really notice. It's not the focus of the story. And so I end up getting wrapped up in these books so much, and I can't put them down. So the second I start reading one of these, it's all I'm reading, and I'm reading it till I'm finished. I will binge read these books, and I make no apologies. But absolutely fantastic. Okay, so this one kind of falls outside my wheelhouse. It's kind of a mystery, but there are some like sci-fi elements to it, a little bit of fantastical elements to it. But I picked it up because everybody was talking about it and I wanted to have an opinion on it, but I didn't expect to love it. However, I thought The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle was absolutely fantastic. I really liked the body hopping element that happens in this book, and I don't want to delve into that too much because it's a little bit spoilery, but we know that we are trying to uncover what happened to Evelyn Hardcastle. And this book tackles character in a way that is very, very different, because we have a character that is taking on different personas. And I thought it was brilliantly done, enjoyed it so much that I ended up going and purchasing Devil in the Dark Water without actually knowing too much about it. I know one of my friends on Twitter just absolutely loved it, but like, this book has so many intriguing elements. The setting is absolutely phenomenal. The character work in this is very strange, but really great. And it was just such a page turner. I couldn't put it down. Okay, I've explained that I like mythology. I have explained that I like Gothic. I've explained all of these things to you guys. So why is this book going to come up? One, because of the author, and two, because it's still very character driven. And this is probably one of the more character driven books of this list, but I loved it. I loved exploring each different character in it, and that would be Spinning Silver by Naomi Novik. Now, I love the Fae. You guys all know this. So it wasn't a stretch for me to pick this one up, but I did know that this was more character driven than any of her other books. And we are focusing on 3 main characters, women in a man's world, and them trying to survive and make something of themselves in this man world type setting. But I actually thoroughly enjoyed reading about these women's lives. It's not something that I typically like. And like I've said before a million times, I don't like reading about mundane things. There are a lot of mundane things that happen in these books, but I think what draws me into this one that pulls me out of others is I like reading about the struggle. So often we read about the struggle of certain characters and they don't feel painful. They don't feel all that struggly, but you can feel the tension and the struggle of these characters as you are being pulled along in the story. And I thought it was absolutely fantastic. Tied into the mythology. I love mythology. So this just kind of hit a very sweet spot for me. Almost a like feminist type way of I really want to see these women prevail. And I use that term loosely. I don't think this is a feminist novel, but it is very, very much about empowering women and seeing the struggle that comes whenever a woman tries to rise in a man's world. So I thoroughly, thoroughly enjoyed this. You might be shaking your head a little bit when you see what book I'm about to talk about. And I do have to say, this does hinge on the author. And I make no apologies for that. But this is a very, very character-driven novel. And usually when character-driven novels are like a gung-ho character, I can't handle it. And this one, it rests on the author and the writing style. And I will admit that, because normally if it was some other author, I would have DNF'd the book at any given point, just because it was slow, character driven, and all of that. However, Anthony Ryan's writing style is what carried me through The Pariah. I did give this book 4.5 stars, but that is because it's a 5-star book if it had a little bit more plot. This is a tale of vengeance, and I really like revenge stories. I really like the grim, dark setting. I've always said that if you've read Anthony Ryan before, this is that with a little bit of Mark Lawrence flavor added to it. And I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. I didn't connect with the main character as much as I did with Valen, but I still found myself turning the page. And in a character-driven novel, that is so odd for me. But Anthony Ryan's writing style really can carry me through anything, and I think this book proves it. He is very eloquent without being pretentious, and he is very clear with his words without being utilitarian. So he rides both lines very, very well. And I just love his writing. His writing is so good. But The Pariah should be a book that I don't like. This should have been a book that I DNF'd about halfway through based on my reading taste. But I absolutely love his writing style. And that's all I can say about this one. Okay, so for a genre that I don't talk much about because I don't really read a whole lot of it, and I'm super, super picky whenever it comes to this particular genre, but magical realism is not something I gravitate towards. Now, this is a historical fiction magical realism story. I think what I like about this book is the historical elements that are added into it. Now, I also really, really liked the Golem. I loved her journey. I loved watching her navigate through life, kind of not knowing what life had to offer and what she was supposed to do outside of being someone's slave. And so I found this book thoroughly, thoroughly intriguing. I actually think I read this in the course of a day, but I really liked the writing style. I really liked the historical setting. And again, this is one where the setting and the writing trumped the plot for me, because the plot in this book is pretty thin. There is plot in this novel, whereas the others in this list kind of don't have a plot, but this one does have a thin plot throughout, and I thoroughly, thoroughly enjoyed it. And like I said, historical fiction, magical realism. We have a golem and a genie that meet at some point in this book, and it's so cool. Like the golem's story starts as she is built to be the wife of a fairly wealthy mogul coming from Europe to America, and she is going to fulfill that role of the wife. Well, he dies on the journey over. So she has no forward plan and kind of has to figure out life from that point on. But I really, really enjoyed this book. Okay, I have to talk about this one because everybody asked me, Trinity, why the heck do you like that book? And I honestly, I don't know. I don't know. The writing style, I love the main character, which most people don't. I just think the writing style, again, is what pulls me through this book, and I think it's absolutely beautiful. But The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss, if you know anything about my taste, this book doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense why I like it. Not at all. But I think I just really loved the way Rothfuss put words together on a page. The writing is so amazing. And there are some things that happen in the second book that I just didn't quite care for. But I love this book so much. I love it so much that I have a special edition autographed copy. And again, it doesn't make sense why I like it. It's character driven. It's slow paced. There's a school setting. There's so many things that I shouldn't like about this book, but I love it. I love it so much. But that is it for my video today. Like, subscribe, do all the fun things, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.